When I asked my girlfriend why she called her ex at midnight, she said, "So what's your problem?" She took advantage of my money, laughed in my face, so I closed every account and walked away for good. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who watched the clock every night. But at 34, you stop pretending you don't notice patterns. It started small. Her phone would light up after midnight, and she'd step away, come back with a laugh I didn't know. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. Exes stay friends, people talk. But the messages grew longer, the calls later, and I found myself waiting on the couch more nights than not. One evening I asked, careful with my words, "Why do you keep calling your ex so late?" She gave me a flat look. "So what's your problem?" she said. No answer, just that question like it was a joke. I felt foolish for even asking, then angry that my concern was treated like an interruption. I tried a different approach. "It worries me," I said. She shrugged. "I do not call my ex. I don't owe you an explanation. Stop being controlling." That label, controlling, felt like a door closing. It wasn't the name, it was the quickness to shut down the conversation. After that, small things began to add up. She closed the door a certain way. Her phone lay face down. She started staying out later and coming home smelling faintly of places I didn't know. A few days later, I put $500 in a small locked box in the closet, emergency money. I remember because she laughed and called it my treasure. The next morning, the money was gone. I checked everywhere. When I asked her, she shrugged and said, "Maybe you misplaced it." I stayed calm, but firm. "You saw me put it there." Her face changed. She snapped. "You're accusing me? You treat me like a criminal. You always make me the bad one." The shift was sudden. The person who had been warm and present became distant and defensive. Arguments turned into lectures about how I needed to trust her more. Any concern I raised was proof of my supposed paranoia. I felt lost inside my own home. I didn't want to turn our life into constant fights. I also didn't want to ignore the signs that something was off. So I began to watch, not to trap her, but to see the pattern clearly. I paid attention to the times she left, who called when she walked away, the way she brushed off questions. I noticed new clothes, receipts I hadn't seen, and how she checked her phone quickly when I walked in. It wasn't a hunt. It was an attempt to collect facts to understand what had changed between us. The trust that used to feel solid was thinning, replaced by moments where I doubted the person beside me. I kept reminding myself to stay calm, to hold to what I hoped she would explain. Some nights I lay awake thinking of better conversations, of asking in a way that wouldn't push her away. Other nights I wondered if asking at all had already pushed us onto a path we couldn't undo. Either way, I could feel the shape of our life shifting, and I knew one question had set something in motion. So I made a decision then. Not dramatic, not final, just a choice to pay attention and to not let small alarms become the loud silence of everything that comes after. I wasn't ready to lose us. The next morning after the money disappeared, I felt something inside me crack. I checked every corner of that apartment, pulled out drawers, searched pockets of jeans I hadn't worn in years, even moved furniture around. Nothing. The box was empty. I turned to her, holding the box in my hand. "Where's the money?" She barely looked up. "I don't know. Maybe you misplaced it." Her tone was so casual, as if I had asked about a missing pin, not hundreds of dollars I had just put away. "I didn't misplace it," I said quietly. "You saw me put it in here. You even joked about it." That's when she snapped. She stood up, voice sharp, eyes narrowed. "You're accusing me? You treat me like I'm some criminal. You always take advantage of me, and now you want to call me a thief." Her words hit fast, turning the spotlight onto me. Suddenly, it wasn't about the missing cash. It was about how awful I supposedly was. I stood there stunned, wondering how asking about something that went missing had turned into me being the villain. The woman I loved, the one who used to curl up beside me on the couch, laugh at my dumb jokes, and share small moments with me. She was nowhere in sight. In her place stood someone distant, defensive, and almost hostile. I tried to calm myself, to not fuel the fire. "I'm not trying to fight," I said. "I just need to know what happened." She shook her head, rolling her eyes. "You're paranoid. Always insecure. Always trying to control everything." After that fight, things got worse. The tension in the apartment was heavy. She stayed out later and later. Some nights, she wouldn't come back until early morning. I'd ask where she'd been, and she'd sigh like I was exhausting her. "Why do you always need to know? Stop acting insecure," she'd say, tossing her bag down without another word. I wanted to believe I was overthinking. Maybe the money had been misplaced. Maybe the calls were innocent. Maybe the late nights had explanations I just hadn't been given. But the more I tried to quiet my doubts, the louder they grew. Deep down, I knew something had shifted. She wasn't the same anymore. And every day, it felt less like I was living with a partner and more like I was living with a stranger who didn't want me asking questions. That missing money wasn't just about cash. It was about trust, and the way it quietly slipped out of our lives the same way that box had been emptied overnight. And no matter how much I wanted to fix it, I couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't want me to. The missing money stopped being about the money. It became a reminder every time I opened that closet door. I couldn't trust her. The cash was gone, yes, but so was something bigger. The girl I thought I knew, the one who made me feel steady, wasn't there anymore. In her place stood someone who dodged questions, turned conversations into accusations, and laughed at concerns as if they were jokes. One Friday night was when everything truly shifted. I had stayed out later than usual, dragging my feet before going home. I didn't even realize it at the time, but part of me was stalling, not wanting to walk into the silence that had become our apartment. When I finally stepped inside, the place was dark. No text, no call, nothing. By midnight, I was still sitting on the couch, staring at the clock. Then I heard the lock turn. She came in smelling faintly of alcohol, hair a little messy, phone clutched tight in her hand. I asked where she had been. She brushed past me without a glance. "Don't start," she said. Those two words had become her shield. Anytime I tried to talk, that's all I got. "Don't start." It was a way to shut the door before it even opened. But I couldn't let it go this time. "We need to talk," I said firmly. "I can't keep doing this. You're gone half the night. You won't answer questions, and I feel like I'm living with someone who doesn't even care about me anymore." She finally looked at me, but not with the kind of look I hoped for. Her expression was cold. "You always think the worst of me," she said flatly. "You want me to be guilty so bad. Maybe I should just give you a reason." Her words didn't come out as anger. They came out sharp, deliberate, meant to cut. It was one of those moments where everything slows down, where your mind keeps replaying the exact tone, the exact choice of words. "Maybe I should just give you a reason." I sat there after she walked past me, my chest hollow. I barely slept that night. Every sound from the other room felt heavy. Every thought kept circling back to those words. It wasn't just what she said. It was what it meant. She didn't care about my trust. She didn't care about the late nights, the calls, the money. She didn't even care about fixing us. All she cared about was winning the argument in that moment, and maybe proving me right in the most painful way. That night became the line I couldn't unsee. The late calls, the money, the cold dismissal. None of it could be explained away anymore. I realized something had broken between us, and I didn't know if it could ever be repaired. That night left me restless. I sat awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying her words over and over. "Maybe I should just give you a reason." It wasn't a slip. It was deliberate. A warning, almost a confession, and it stayed with me like a stone in my chest. By morning, I made up my mind. I couldn't keep swallowing my doubts. I brewed a pot of coffee, sat across from her at the table, and told her exactly how I felt. "I can't keep living like this," I said. My voice was calm, steady. "If you want to keep this double life, then you don't need me in it." She didn't look shocked. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she laughed. Actually laughed. "Double life?" she said between chuckles. "You've been watching too many movies. You're paranoid. You're pathetic." That word, pathetic, hit different. It burned more than the lies, more than the missing money. Because once respect is gone, love doesn't survive. I sat there in silence, realizing she no longer saw me as her partner. She saw me as someone to dismiss, to belittle, to use. That's when I started noticing the small things more carefully. Her phone, always face down when I entered the room. Clothes I never saw her buy, tucked into the closet. Nights where she claimed she was with friends, but came home hours later than she should have. And then came the moment that sealed everything. One evening, she left her laptop open on the couch. I don't make a habit of snooping. I never wanted to be that guy. But after everything, my gut told me to look. I opened the screen. My stomach turned as I scrolled. Emails. Dozens of them. Not just with her ex, but with two other men. Plans to meet. Jokes and private nicknames. Flirty lines that made my hands tighten on the keyboard. And then, one email that broke whatever hope I had left. A dinner reservation receipt. Paid with my credit card. I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It wasn't just disrespect. It was theft, manipulation, and complete disregard for me. When she got home that night, I didn't yell. I didn't throw accusations. I didn't play her game. I simply held up the laptop and asked, "Is this who you are now?" For the first time in weeks, I saw her face change. Not anger, not dismissal, fear. Just for a second, her mask slipped. And in that second, I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew I wasn't paranoid. I knew everything I had suspected was true. For the first time in weeks, she froze. Her mouth opened like she had words ready, but nothing came out. The color drained from her face, and for that single moment, the mask slipped. Then, just as quickly, she snapped back. "You had no right to go through my stuff. That's invasion of privacy." Her voice was sharp, but underneath it, I could hear the crack. She wasn't denying the emails, the dinners, or the credit card. She was shifting the blame, like she always did. I stayed calm. Privacy? Don't talk to me about privacy when you've been living off my money, sneaking around behind my back, and treating me like a fool. You don't get to use that word anymore. She glared at me, but there was no comeback this time. Only anger with nowhere to go. She grabbed her jacket, stormed out, and slammed the door so hard the frames on the wall rattled. The silence afterward was different. It wasn't tense, it was final. I sat there on the couch, staring at that laptop, and realized the relationship wasn't dying. It was already dead. The woman I fell in love with, the one who laughed with me late at night, who shared small dreams and inside jokes, that person was gone. In her place was someone who saw me as a wallet, a safety net, a man she could keep around until she found something better. Over the next few days, I stopped pretending things would fix themselves. I took action, quietly, carefully, without telling her. I closed our joint account and moved my money into one she couldn't touch. I gathered my things, clothes, personal items, everything important, and packed them away. I left only what she might need so she wouldn't notice right away. I called the landlord. The lease was in my name. I told him I'd be moving out and that she'd need to handle her own arrangements if she wanted to stay. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. It felt strange, making those calls, packing those bags, moving in silence while she was out living whatever life she thought she was hiding. But at the same time, it felt steady, like taking back pieces of myself she had chipped away. For the first time in months, I felt control returning, not over her, but over my own choices. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to let her turn it all back on me. When she came home, she would find a different version of me. Not the man waiting up at night. Not the man asking questions with no answers. She would find a man who had finally decided he was done. The first night after I closed the accounts and started moving my things, I slept better than I had in months. Not because I felt good. There was still pain, still betrayal. But because for the first time, I had a plan. I wasn't stuck waiting for her to change. She didn't notice right away. For a few days, she carried on like nothing had happened, staying out late, brushing off questions, rolling her eyes whenever I tried to speak. She didn't know the safety net she thought she had was already gone. The change came when she tried to use my card. I was sitting on the couch when she stormed in, tossing her bag down. "Why isn't my card working?" she snapped. I didn't even look up from the coffee I was drinking. "Because it's not your card." Her jaw tightened. "Don't play games with me. Did you freeze the account?" "Yes," I said simply. "It's my money. I'm done letting you drain it." Her eyes narrowed. "You're unbelievable. After everything I've put up with, this is how you treat me." That line almost made me laugh. After everything she put up with? I set the mug down and looked at her. "I think you've confused me with someone else. I've been the one putting up with you." For once, she had no quick comeback. The silence that followed was sharp, heavy. She turned away, pacing, muttering under her breath. I could see the panic creeping in. Not the kind of panic that comes from losing a relationship, but from losing control. Later that night, she tried a different angle. She came and sat next to me on the couch, softer than she'd been in weeks. She leaned against me, her voice low. "Maybe we've just been going through a rough patch. We can fix this. Don't throw us away." Her tone was sweet, almost convincing, but it was too late. I'd read the emails. I'd watched her lies pile up. I knew this wasn't love, it was desperation. She wasn't fighting for me. She was fighting for the comfort of having me as backup. I looked at her and shook my head. "You already threw us away. I'm just cleaning up the mess." Her face changed instantly. The softness vanished, replaced by anger. She stood up, voice rising. "You'll regret this. You think you're better than me? Fine. Go. Walk away. But don't come crawling back when you realize no one else will put up with you." She stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door. I sat there, strangely calm. Her words didn't cut this time. They felt empty, like the last tricks of someone who had already lost. The next day, I finished packing. I didn't rush. I folded clothes neatly, boxed up what mattered, left the rest behind. With each drawer I cleared, I felt lighter. I wasn't just moving out of an apartment. I was moving out of a life built on lies. And deep down, I knew the next conversation would be the last. When she finally came back that evening, it was late. She walked in with the same careless air she always carried, like nothing had changed, like the last few weeks hadn't been tearing everything apart. She dropped her keys on the counter and froze when she saw me by the doorway, suitcase already zipped. Her voice cracked with panic. "Wait, what are you doing? You're really leaving?" I stood still for a moment, letting the weight of it settle. Then I looked her straight in the eyes. "You already left," I said quietly. "You just never had the decency to say it out loud." For the first time, she didn't argue. She didn't throw out insults or twist the story around. She just stood there, silent. Her mouth opened as if to speak, but nothing came. That silence told me more than words ever could. I carried my bags to the door. She didn't move to stop me. No apology, no confession, no begging me to stay. Just silence, heavy and final. Walking out of that apartment was one of the hardest things I've ever done. My chest was tight, my steps heavy, but each step also felt like a release. I wasn't just leaving her behind. I was leaving behind the lies, the late-night calls, the missing money, the empty promises. She wanted secrets, games, and half-truths. I wanted honesty, loyalty, and love. Those two lives couldn't exist under the same roof. So I walked away, and I never looked back. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.